Good morning, Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today? Alongside of me, Brother Doug. What's up, man?
Good morning. Hey, is your butt sore from riding that road race over the weekend? Like, is it tough to sit down? Is it sensitive?
No, you know what's funny is that I sat on a bike for 3 hours and I sat in a truck for 3.5 after that.
Oh, you think? I'll send the Action mini plane down, pick you up next time, get you home faster. All right.
I love it. So, funny story about this, Jeremy. Go look at that picture closerly. It's not the usual donut picture that I use. This is in reference to last week. It's me on the bike and Doug with a donut. It's back to our conversation from last week. Just a little fun.
I feel like there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of judgment already happening here.
No judgment. No judgment.
Just
a lot of fun.
That's like the greatest donut ever.
It's huge.
I had a lot of pain and discomfort after eating that donut at Asti last year. Just probably similar to you and your bike.
That was the biggest donut I've ever seen. That was wild. It was
He brought two of them.
It was like what do you call those things? Like the butt donuts after surgery or whatever. Like, I mean, it was like that size.
Yeah. It kind of equated to that eventually anyway. So
I love it. I stand with Doug. Oh goodness. I'm not picking on Doug. It's all in fun.
Well, he's a big fan of a donut, you know, as well as Adam. So yeah.
Good morning, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. Service Alliance Group, year old, officially. We launched the website a year ago.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, that was a good time yesterday. Just did a little live stream. Good morning. And what do you get? I don't know that I really want to know where that's going. I have a feeling he's going to tell us anyway. But
that's why I try to avoid portalets. You know, they don't tend to. They're not good usually.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, no, it was a good weekend. We got away. Actually, good week. We left Tuesday and came back. Had a little low key Sunday. But yeah, it was a good time. Kid loves going down there. She had a lot of fun. She's kind of like me. She making new friends on the race line. So had a little friend. They hung out the whole time. You know. Anyway.
She's not the introverted one in the family?
No, that's definitely my wife. My kid and I are not introverted at all. We'll talk to anyone.
So that's great. That's great.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
Well, I rode a 70-mile bike race this weekend in your honor. No, I didn't. I was going to watch a documentary about biking, and I decided even that was too much for me. So, no.
A do cycle. Oh, boy.
Oh, there was a punchline to that terrible joke.
Apparently.
Saul is banned from Service Alliance for 1 month.
Good night.
That was good. My daughter went back to college, so we went up just to check in on her, make sure she had everything, and that was great. Sitting in traffic. So beautiful.
I love traffic. Can't get away from it.
Then we had a license plate stolen from one of our vans that was getting serviced. That took like months to get serviced for a new transmission. And so I had to ride to then Providence, Rhode Island, on Sunday. But, finished up the book from Overbooked, right? What are we reading? The 5 Dysfunctions?
Yeah.
Yep. So it was a good time. Something about being alone and relaxing and just, having that alone time. I haven't had it in a while, so it's really great.
Yeah, it is good to kind of have those zone outs. Honestly, for me, that's why I get on the bike. Is I put the headphones on, I listen to an Audible, and I'm zoned out.
To get away from your wife. Okay. Make
no.
No.
No. We won't go there. No, it was weird riding with people. So you asked like that I ride along with anyone, and I met a couple pastors. They do house churches out in Indiana, and we chatted for, I don't know, we rode together probably 30 miles, whatever. But it's just weird. Like, it's weird being in community doing that. I'm so used to, I lock in and I go, I ride, I have my headphones on, no one can bother me. So it was weird riding with people. It was good. I enjoyed it. Just different. So
Great.
all right. Well, let's pray us in, and then we'll launch into the topic of are you listening?
Good morning, Lord. We are grateful for another week, another Monday, another day. We know that every day is a blessing. And as much as we try as humans to be grateful for what we have, we struggle. We struggle wishing that things were different or wishing we had more. But Lord, as Zach reminded me in the pre-roll, life is precious. And at any time, we don't know when our end is near. So, God, I just lift up our whole community this week and pray that we live in a moment by moment day, second by second, minute by minute, looking around for the blessings, looking around to find people that we can be a light to be kind to bring encouragement to, and to see if we can help them in some way as a servant. And we lift all this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So we're talking about feedback today. So the theme for the week is law of the scoreboard, knowing where you stand and how to make adjustments. And one of the things that I was thinking about this morning, mostly from experience, is like, do we listen to our employees? We become really good at listening to customers. We might become really good at listening to our spouse, our friends, but do we really listen to what our team members are saying? And do we have a system in place for that? So that's what we're going to kind of discuss today. And I'm curious, in your workplace, do you guys have anything in place like that, Doug? Or is it just kind of like a free for all right now?
Well, firstly, it's typical Zach to take a topic like the law of scoreboard and then pull one tiny little thread out. And right now, I love that about you, because as you shared with the team that does morning grinds, that this is the week for the law of scoreboard, right? What is the law of scoreboard? That's knowing our metrics and numbers, knowing our game plan, right? And the scoreboard helps us figure out where we are in that game and how things may have gone differently or how we're being challenged or how well we're doing. The scoreboard helps us make alternative options and choices, right?
Just a reality. It's a marker for you, so
it's a marker.
What's going on.
Yeah, and so that means we got to have the offense figured out, the defense figured out. We have to have the mindset figured out. And so what you're talking about is what's the feedback from the most difficult place to get numbers and metrics, because we can go into Google and see how our advertising is going. We can go into our phone system and see how busy the phones are. We can do so much, but how do we know the heart and the motivation and the mindset of our people? And so I love that. Thank you, Zach, for being strange and cool like you are. Yeah, so it's interesting. I think that people in the beginning often don't want to share, or they don't want to give their feedback. And that's always stifled me. But I think it comes down to buy-in. I think it comes down to maybe they don't consider their opinions valuable or that it matters, So I think it's before you even set up your system of getting their feedback, you got to get them to want to give feedback. Has that been your experience as well, Zach, in church life and in all these communities that you serve in?
Yeah, there definitely has to be a level of trust there. They have to trust you before they're willing to communicate. And even if they are willing to communicate, are you willing to listen? Do you have that same level of trust with them? Because it really is a two-way street when it comes to that. There's going to be moments where what they say is uncomfortable to you, right? Because we're not perfect. There's always room for growth. And how you handle that, how you process through that feedback, that is what's going to set the tone on if others will actually give you feedback and will buy in, right? So let's go back to the needle nose days. Like did you give Jay feedback? Like were you young gun like, Jay, this sucks, or Jay, this is,
I did. Yeah. And Jay has always been pretty good at listening and taking it. Now, making the changes was a different story, but or maybe at young age, I thought he'd do it better and faster. But what did I know? I was just a tech at the time, right? But no, Jay's always been a good listener. Ironically, every Thursday we'll have a leadership meeting. So that's about 3 managers and Jay and myself on a Teams call. And Jay was in, but his camera wasn't on. He was having internet trouble, so he wasn't really involved in the meeting. And it was a long week. I don't know about you guys in your area, but last week for sure was the crazy customer world where everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it just like you start to question if you're even good at what you do as a company, because it's just amazing how many things going wrong. So we were, and one of my guys was on vacation, one of my managers. So I'm like, either that guy has a terrible job here and is always putting these fires out, or we're just having a combination of us stepping up to help, do his role as well as it's a crazy month. So anyway, I kind of felt like I wanted to share with the rest of the leadership team, hey, we worked our butts off this week. It was a really tough week. If, I'm fried. If you're fried, it's okay. I said it differently. So anyway, post meeting, Jay calls me up and he goes, actually it was like the next day. He goes, hey, do you think that's the right thing to do, is to tell them that it was a really rough week and that, we're in survival mode sometimes. And right away I'm going, of course, Jay, I already know. I know that they're stressed like I was stressed. And so I figured I'm just coming in to support. And I did not listen to a freaking word he said. I did not let it permeate me. I didn't ponder it for a second. Well, I did while I was driving to Providence to bring license plates to my technician. And I realized that it is really hard to receive feedback. And so as us in charge receiving feedback, you better leave your butts on the bike seat, right? You can't say, I hear what you're saying, but, and then go and defend yourself. You need to listen and shut up and take note of it and then come back to them another day, which is super powerful, I think. Coming back to them another day. Hey, I just want to follow up with you. We had that conversation on Wednesday. I heard what you said, and this is where what I'm thinking so far, or this is what we're going to do. And to me, that's a back and forth that is needed to get that buy-in for trust, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's important for employees to be able to do that, for team members to be able to do that. There has to be that level of back and forth trust, because nothing's gonna get done. Like the whole point of a team, right, is because you can't multiply yourself, and so the best way to multiply yourself is to have a team. And so if your goal is growth, if your goal is to expand into different territories or whatever, you have to grow a team. And to be able to do that, they are your eyes and your ears, so you have to be able to learn how to interpret what's coming through your eyes and ears in the field.
You got to definitely filter it, because if you ask every technician, what are your challenges? It's scheduling. And you can have Jesus Christ doing your scheduling and it won't be good enough for those guys, for sure. But you got to be able to filter through it all and find the things that can be changed in spite of your track record or success. If you were to score your scheduling at 80 or 90%, who cares? Just go for 100%, right? Work on the 10% if you can.
So do you have a open door policy? Do you have a, like, how do you guys work the feedback?
Yeah, all the way up to Jay as well. When I hire people, and in the I guess the toughest time might be when I know that I'm not getting through to them or they're not willing to change. I want to remind them that there is another place that they can go to and try to work it through, and that's Jay. And that can, potentially feel threatening. I think sometimes if someone goes right to him and doesn't give me a chance, and that's only happened like once or twice, I would probably say, hey, thanks for sharing that. And I have to be very humble about this because I could be very offended or hurt, or feel like Jay's going to be judging me harshly. But again, working for a great guy like him, he recognizes that wherever someone feels comfortable, because it's all about an injustice. If you have an injustice, you have to feel safe to share it somewhere and be heard, right?
Jay is really good about that. Like, I have a feeling as an employee, it would be very comfortable to be in that place and be able to, like, hey, here's what's going on. And I just, even in the couple times that I've interacted with Jay, you can tell, like, he just has this very low key, like, listening.
Wasn't talking about you. I wasn't talking about you, Paul. Now, Paul will tell everyone and anyone who is appropriate to have it heard. He was always a great sharer of feedback, for sure.
Yeah.
And he always did say sorry after he shared the feedback. Don't know why, Paul. He always said sorry after, but he would always say that too. So yeah. Paul is raw data. He's straight up raw data. What's on his mind in the moment, and you could feel threatened by that. You could be somebody's giving you feedback about an issue that we've been working on very intently for a recent period of time, and we're on the cusp of getting it better, and this person's potentially peeing on your cornflakes is what it feels like, but it's not what that person is doing. They don't know where we're at. They don't know what we're working on. And it's just great to make sure that you never respond emotionally to feedback,
Right. Well, and that's a perfect point, because I'm that same way.
Really?
I'm just, yeah. It's not just the Chicago in me. I'm just
no. It's definitely Chicago. Come on, you and Mike.
It's not just the Chicago.
Oh.
No, I'm very data oriented. I'm that same way. Like, if the data points aren't lining up, all right, what are we going to do about it? Like, which way are we pivoting? Which way are we steering the ship? And I mean, so perfect example, Matt and I went round and around the other day, and I told him, you need a new accountant. I'm done with the excuses. I'm done listening to this. Like, I'm tired of his excuses. I know you guys are friends, but this is business. And I laid out the data points, and I went, here's where they messed up. Here's where they messed up. Here's where they messed up. And each time they say they're improving it, and each time they're making the exact same mistake.
Yeah.
So as feedback to him, like, he can take that as a very personal thing. And he did. He's, we're friends. Take that out of it. This is business. I'm looking at this from a purely numbers point. His job is to guide us with the finances, and to make sure that these other tasks are taken care of. They handle our payroll. They handle our taxes. They handle all that stuff. And if they're dropping the ball on all these things and it's coming back to us, then we have to fix that. And so and that's why I say it is a two-way street. It is that dance. I have to be able to clearly explain myself, and he has to also hear on the other side of that. It's not an attack. It's, here's the data points. Here's what's going on. And that can be overwhelming. Having been on Matt's side of that, as employees were giving me feedback, it can feel like someone's peeing in your cornflakes. Like, I'm doing the best I can, and so it does have to be a dance. It does have to be that kind of back and forth. It does take some time to kind of tune your ears into what's actually going on.
You have to know your people, right? Like the Myers-Briggs or the disc profiling. I mean, if you have a team that's more than 3, why not try to understand who your people are and how they can understand you? It makes it less personal that way, because we come into work and we're bringing who we are. It's like you're bringing Chicago to work every day, and so that's just something that you have to make sure you understand. You have to filter through some of that Chicago stuff and get to the heart of it, right? Like I would work, you and I work together. I know that I'll always know where you stand and how you feel, Zach.
It's true.
But for that same reason, I have a bunch of people on our 25 plus team that I don't know how they're really doing. And that's just as scary, man. Just as scary as knowing you're going to have an intense, loving conversation about, the color of the uniforms with somebody. You don't know what those other people, are feeling. And so, yeah, you got to build the trust. And then after that, if they even have a hint and willingness to give their feedback, you now have to create a place and a time, almost like a schedule of where it can be done on a regular basis. And once you put that in place, do not think for 1 second that it'll just take off and run with it. It's the rules of engagement. It's the consistency of meeting. It's the honesty between the people talking each and every time, or else it's just going to be sort of a ceremonial effort. Like we have a tech meeting every Wednesday. Long before COVID, we used WebEx. We didn't even use cameras. We would just be on the phone because our techs are remote. And so we would just be on the phone. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they were at a call or at their house in the morning. And their engagement was minimal. And then we go through COVID, we get Zoom. Now all of a sudden cameras are on and everything. And even if the cameras are on, the engagement's not always there. And so what has tech meetings been for action since 2013? It's me or someone in charge telling them what we're doing well, 2 things, and then the 7 things that we're not doing well. And it's a reminder, it's a nagging session. But really, really, like, is that the best place to talk to a team of people about something that we're not overcoming? That's a one-to-one thing. Hey, listen, we've talked about it. And, I have some people doing it and some people not doing it well. You're one of the people that are struggling. That's a one-to-one. Those tech meetings, these group meetings need to be about collaboration all the time, unless it's an announcement. And, hey, we're growing, we're shrinking, we're doing this. But these meetings, so right now I give our team a C- for engagement and feedback. And I don't believe that they really know that those meetings are time and place to share their thoughts, their ideas, their frustrations. Only Paul and a couple others. That was it. When Paul left us, we would hear crickets, so the meetings would go faster.
And I wonder, in a situation like that, we're asking more questions, if that even helps, right? Like if you ask the questions and make it very clear that that's the time to give the feedback. Because one of the dangers of feedback is, right, we create this place for them to actually give the feedback, whether it's as I said in the pre-roll, the BS box that, companies put up, or, drop your comments, concerns in this box and no one's ever going to read it. That's the fear, is that no one's ever going to read it. No one's ever going to do anything about it. And so in my thought process for a tech meeting like that, it's to get the questions, to get those things that are nagging on their minds. Hey, share it with us. And then provide the feedback on, here's the things that we have been able to work on from what you guys have brought to us. Here's the things that we've been able to do or not do. And here's why, right? So it's a great idea. Here's why we can't implement it. Yeah. Here's what we're going to do instead, though. Here's what we're going to kind of pivot on because it sparked, whatever. If you can get that level of transparency and that level of trust.
Yeah. Well, I like how you used the suggestion box as BS. That's very classic Chicagoan, by the way.
I mean, it's so true though. Like but at least up here.
Well, but you're making a really good point that if you're doing it, you're doing it for that right reason. You're not doing it to appease them or to make them feel better and it's a hollow situation. So I think it's as much work as it takes to develop a team where we can trust one another, figure out how we each communicate and not take things personally because, we know how we go back and forth. Then it's just as hard to create a space and a time where people check in and get engaged and share their feedback. But once you do that, I think it's a great thing. So we'll do one-to-one meetings every 2 weeks with the techs, one of the service managers. And at the end, at the beginning, it's always asking about their feedback. And so that's a number 2 spot where you're going to have the tech meetings, and then you have the one-to-one. We are putting together a some sort of suggestion box that is private, because you never know what type of employee you have. They may or may not feel, they may feel threatened here in the big group setting. They may feel intimidated in the one-to-one, but no matter what, our desire to find out what people are feeling is important.
And hear me out. I'm not picking on using the box. It is a great way if you actually utilize it.
Of course. Yeah.
I have been at places up here, and this is why I call it the BS box. I've literally watched them dump it in the trash.
Yeah.
You have this spot where your employees are supposed to be able to give feedback, and they open it up right into a trash can. Like, what did you, why? So a suggestion box, like my wife would be the kind of person, she's a very anxiety person. She's not the person who's going to come and have a face-to-face necessarily. She would put something in a suggestion box. That would be her type of personality.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it, as long as you're following through, like the point of feedback, the point of what we're talking about today on the scoreboard, because the scoreboard is not just like, oh, yep, we did it.
Right.
It's, okay, we did this, but we have to get here still. So here's what we're going to do to get there.
Exactly.
Right?
Can you imagine you have an idea, you've got a plan, you're going to implement something in your business, and you're working so hard to get it off the ground, and the scoreboard, what is what's telling you where you're at presently in the game. And if you don't know what's going on with your players, you might be just wasting your time, because they're afraid to buy into this thing. There's problems that you are completely unaware of, and they're keeping it to themselves because it's not my job, because I'm going to get yelled at, because they're going to judge me as somebody complaining, whatever the thing is. And so, I mean, at the heart of it, you got to have great relationships and create that space where we can communicate freely. Again, and I don't know that I do as good of a job as I could. I know that Jay set the bar really high. Of course, it was different. It was his raised ranch in 1993, where they lived upstairs and the office was downstairs, and we weren't remote, and we covered this area instead of this area. So, but in the spirit of things, knowing that everybody's opinion matters is pretty critical. But getting them to share it is a whole nother thing. It's hard work all the way through. Yep.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to it. The biggest thing, if you want people to continue to buy in, to continue to give feedback, you have to prove that you're acting on that feedback. Whether you're acting on it or it sparked a different way of doing something. You may not take that exact suggestion, let's pick on the uniform colors, for example. Oh my God, these are the ugliest color, and you should do it in this color. No, we're not going to do that. But what we are going to do is we're going to make this pivot, because that is a good idea. Like, we see where the problem comes in. And so let's try this, right? And you give that feedback like, hey, we heard you.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do to kind of go, here's why we have the uniforms we have, but here's the pivot we're going to make to kind of accomplish this task that you highlighted to us. That was a blind spot. Thank you for that. Right.
It's a huge win when somebody gives you feedback that inspires change or makes improvement. As a leader, we need to celebrate that. We need to, Saul working for the big, dark overlords of Marcone, right? Saul's like a stormtrooper, right? Or maybe he's one of those guys with the bigger, goofier helmets because he's got a little more power or control. But can you imagine? Because Saul is a loyal person. He is a great, has great hard work and great ethics and great ideas. Can you imagine if his idea created change? And from the top down, in any kind of forum or space, they're recognizing, that employee, a great idea or collaboration with this employee. I look forward to sharing that feedback and not take ownership, but collaboration is pretty critical, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's the important part. That begins to build that level of trust. You provided a space.
Yep.
You've shared that you're doing this in collaboration together, and then you repeat, right?
Yeah.
You just continue to get better at that. And as you do, you'll see that your employees will get more engaged. They will begin to have that collaborative mindset back and forth. And it does. It all starts with.
Go
ahead. I was going to say it all starts with a mindset, right? So if we've created this mindset and this culture within our company of collaboration, of truly being a team and working together for a common goal, then we begin to see success on that. So.
I mean, it's a great topic, good timing. It's something in our tech area, something that we've been working on. So like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I met with the 2 service managers to say, hey, listen, these tech meetings are for them. And, and I kind of just reminded them, I've been doing it a long time, and what you're doing, or you're trying to do now is what I've tried to do for years. And it just doesn't move the needle to lecture and to speak at them. And so let's teach them that this meeting is for them. So you need to just ask questions. And then I had to just kind of coach them and prepare them on the awkward silences when you ask the question and no one speaks up. And I had to remind them that some people are like a little bit delayed. The true introverted people who don't talk a lot and puke up things like I do, they're pondering. And usually those introverted people, when they speak a song, it's beautiful and it's like, wow, right? But you got to create that space. And for people like me and probably you, Zach, it's maybe not you, I won't speak for you, it's torture to ask a question and say, what do you guys think? And that awkward silence is just like it's just melting off, right? And so we record our tech meetings, and I watched it, and they were like, I get it, but they're going to have to practice that awkward silence. And I said, listen, if a meeting only goes 12 minutes, I don't care, but make it about them and what they want to share. And that's where they stumbled a little bit. So the next meeting went a little bit better. And then the last meeting, it was just one of my service managers solo because the other was on vacation. So we're going to get back into the grind of that. And I'm going to basically give them a stupid rule. Like, you cannot tell them, you can't share. I don't know how I'm going to word this, but you can't go and tell them what they're doing wrong collectively as a team. This is only asking them what they think and what are their thoughts about this topic. And you are not to tell them how to do it properly in that space. And that's maybe why Brian said, I'm going on vacation. I don't want to deal with
it. So you want to know if you guys in the audience want to know a secret, it's questions. Mm-hmm. Like, ask more questions. Mm-hmm. You will never go wrong asking more questions. I promise. It like you can't go wrong asking more questions. If you think you've asked enough questions, ask one more and find out what happens, right? Like,
no, listen, I say it's about always asking questions, not more, only questions. Yeah. So someone responds to your question with their opinion that's completely off, or maybe asking not questions. Exactly. Yeah. No, you just say, so what do others think about that? Right.
Right.
And the only time you may speak at them is to remind them the common courtesy of rules of engagement, that we're all right from our own opinion. And hey, thanks for sharing your thought there, and then I owe Paul Hartland probably $50,000 in terrible tech meetings all the years that he worked for us, where his face is coming off going, when is this thing going to end? And Doug and Brian are going to stop talking at me, but like, that's where we're heading. And Paul, once it's on fire, if it's not working out on your own, you can come back and you can join in our tech meetings for sure and come work with us again. But I think only asking questions. That's it.
You know who taught me how to, so like you work with me on don't take it personal. You know who works with me on that awkward silence and shutting up long enough to listen? My wife. My wife is that introvert. She is the one that, like, if you ask a question, it's painful. Like, it's painful way because she has to process through it and she has to think through it. And I'm like, everything in you wants to jump out, but it is good practice for working with team members that may have that same kind of.
Yeah.
I owe it back in the headaches I gave. See, there you go. You got a good 2-way streak going.
No way, Paul. No way, Paul. I miss you. I miss you a lot, my friend.
I don't even know where that came from. Oh, so anyway. Well, that's what I got for today. I know it's kind of a microscopic piece of the scoreboard, but I think it is such an important piece. We're not on the field all the time, right? And so our team members are the ones that have to give that feedback so we can adjust the playbook accordingly to make that scoreboard go where we want it to go.
But you know something, Zach? It does maybe to some sound obscure, or kind of very, very narrow focus. But wherever you are in your team, whether it's you got 2 people or 5 people or more, if you feel like that's a good idea, but I'll worry about that later, or I'll focus on that. I have way more important things like truck stock, and you need to just do this now. This is important to do now, in conjunction with everything else. Because the next person you hire could be like the greatest employee you'll ever have. But if you can't create a place and a space that they feel wanted and heard, you could lose them. You can lose them when you were focusing on getting signs on your building, or whatever.
I think this is the basis of culture, right? You hear people talking about culture in companies, and it's become such a buzzword. It makes me want to puke sometimes. But this is it. Like, this is the piece that matters. Creating the space within your company where it becomes true collaboration. You can get that feedback. You can hear and you can improve and you can become better. Yeah. That's the win. Right? Like, that is the foundation that sets the tone for anything else you do. Nothing else matters if you don't have the foundation of a good, healthy team going. And this is where it starts. So I love it.
Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah. Enjoy. We'll see you next time on the grind, guys.
Bye, guys.